Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence Podcast. I'm your host, Lester De Alwis, and this podcast is dedicated to helping dental professionals build stronger, more profitable practices with less reliance on insurance. So today, I am thrilled to welcome Jofin Joseph, co-founder and CEO of Needletail AI. Jofin spent 15 years building companies across sales intelligence, venture capital, and healthcare technology before turning his focus entirely to dental. His platform launched in late 2025 and has already verified over 500,000 patient benefits across 400 plus payers, with teams reporting error rates dropping from 25% down to under 3%. So, Jofin, welcome to the show and great to have you here.
Absolutely, Lester. So thanks for having me. It's your podcast name itself is amazing. Less insurance dependence, which is sweet. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to share a bit of what I've learned from the market.
Of course. So, after 15 years building startups across completely different industries, what pulled you into the dental insurance space specifically?
Quick answer: the problems and the inefficiencies were too hard to ignore in the healthcare and specifically in healthcare insurance space. So yeah, so I've been building startups and primarily building startups in the machine learning AI space for quite some time before even the AI was a buzzword or was made popular with ChatGPT and others. So as I got introduced to the healthcare insurance landscape, I was so surprised to see how difficult and inefficient the whole process is, right? And the most important thing is, and all these inefficiencies in the process, the provider is taking the burn. While in one way or the other, the carrier is a beneficiary of the inefficiencies. And in that way, if we simply expect the system to change, it would never change, right? So I felt with all the new technologies that are out there, which I was very close to, all these inefficiencies and all these challenges could be solved. And this is the right time with AI coming up in terms of great capabilities. This is the right time to actually solve that problem. And that's what got me into dental, right? So in dental, it's still a few years behind general medical when it comes to technology adoption. And we found some really good pain points, very deep pain points, which are worth solving, which could create amazing impact. And that's specifically why I chose dental and chose this particular space to actually get started with.
Amazing. So, now let's talk about what staying stuck in that old system is actually costing practices. So, dental teams are spending close to an hour per patient and on hold and in portals before the day even starts. So, what's the real damage that does to a practice in the bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are solving, by the way, RCM, the full cycle of RCM, revenue cycle management, and automating it with AI agents. So whatever currently a team in-house does, or a team outsources, or a dental practice outsources to, that the whole thing can be automated. And the vision that we're building is revenue cycle management, which currently is a very complex process with a lot of people involved, a lot of processes involved, a lot of money involved, a lot of inefficiencies involved. This will turn out into a simple API call in the near future, and we are driving towards that future. So, and one specific point that we are actually doing right now, mostly with the customers, is eligibility verification. Now, this process, the practices who are listening to this podcast would know, this is an unnecessarily complex process, right? So you just need to understand the eligibility of the person, and now understanding the eligibility of the person to your question is extremely critical, because if you don't do it, you either overcharge the patient or overestimate the patient's contribution that is needed, or underestimate the patient's contribution that is needed. If you end up underestimating, that results in denials down the line and a huge collections book down the line, which is not desirable, right? So you don't want to be going back after the patient 2 months down the line and asking for money. That's no one wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
And if you overestimate the patient's contribution, you are essentially driving the patients away, because that means that the out-of-pocket expense for the patient at your practice is higher than what it would be in another practice, right? So you want to have the exact information of what the insurance covers, so that you can give the perfect payment plan to the patient. And that is exactly the advantage of doing eligibility verification right. Now, to do that is very expensive in terms of the time and effort which is required. So if your front office is doing it, or if you have a dedicated team who's doing it, they end up spending a lot of time either on the payer portals, logging in, searching for the information, finding the information, copying and pasting that information back into your practice management system. Or worse, is you spend that time on a phone call with the patient, with the carrier. So you end up with those long wait times. And these are, believe me or not, 30 to 40-minute phone calls, which are painful, which no one wants to do, right? And if your front office is doing it, that is taking their valuable time, which they should be serving customers or serving the patients. So essentially, yeah, essentially, doing eligibility right improves your denials or denial rates, reduces your collection book, makes your patient experience way better because you are giving the exact right plan. And we give you an opportunity to do that perfect verification without having to spend hours on the phone, or without locking your team's time on the phone. So that's what we do, and that's specifically where we come in. And of course, we are starting to do the rest of the steps as well, like claims and accounts receivable follow-ups and denial management and parsing those EOBs and posting into it, etc. So this whole cycle, we are making it much easier. And again, the additional benefit to this is when these kind of activities are done by humans, typically there's a lot of error probability in this, because you're copying and pasting, you're dealing with a lot of numbers and things, and all those steps are error prone. The chances of human errors are very high, and we reduce that to a great extent by automating it and doing it with AI.
Right. So I think your solution is basically fixing that real financial leak. And then now walk us through how basically now Needletail's AI logs into the portals and makes the payer calls and then cross checks everything before your team basically touches a chart. So how does that shift, and what the front desk actually focuses on?
Yeah. So you are spot on. Needletail's AI is like this invisible teammate that you have. So Needletail connects with your practice management system, reads new appointments automatically while you're sleeping or while your office is working on other things. We will do this on the back end. We have AI agent who can go into the insurance portals and collect all the information. If all the information is not there in the portal, sometimes a history or a coverage details might not be there in the portal. We have an AI agent who places a phone call and talks to the insurance company and bring back all the information. And at the end of it all, if AI fails in any case, we put a human in the loop and complete it. And there's human in the loop quality checks as well to make sure that the data coming out of AI systems is like perfect vetted always. So that's what we do. Now, how it frees up the time. So our belief is the only reason why a friend desk is called a friend desk is because they are supposed to be doing one thing, which is patient experience, right? They are there to talk to the patients, give an amazing experience to the patients, talk them through. It's just about that. That's a fundamental. Now, there are two parts to a great patient experience. One, having enough time and time to actually talk to them, and two, knowing exactly what to talk to them. Right. So that's exactly what a system like ours do, where instead of the front desk person being on the phone when the patient walks in, the front desk person is there, present to talk to the patient. Second, when the front desk looks at the data in the practice management system, all the data that is required to give to talk to the patient will be available right there. We will automatically populate it, right? So we empower the front desk by reducing the time that they spend on mundane tasks, and at the same time, we enable them with all the information that is required for them to have meaningful conversations and like definitive solid conversations with patients, especially on matters related to pricing. So yeah, that's the way we do it, right? So we make front desk more efficient by freeing up their time and enabling them with the right information.
Yeah, and when you, like you said, when your front desk is efficient, they get their time back, they get more focus back, and that changes everything downstream. So now, the revenue argument here that goes even deeper, I think. Most dentists think collections is a billing problem. And why do you think it actually starts at the moment a patient books?
Yeah. So, like I said in the beginning, the core part of collections, one big chunk of collections, probably 50% of collections happen during on the treatment on the treatment day, right? So where you collect it from the patient. Now, you can either overcharge the patient or undercharge the patient, depending on how much you think you can collect from the insurance company. Now, and deciding how much to collect from the patient on the payment on the treatment day completely depends on how much you know about the patient's insurance plan, right? So if you do not know enough about the insurance plan, you either end up overcharging the patient or undercharging the patient. Now, what happens when you overcharge the patient? That becomes like that affects the patient experience because you are suddenly becoming more expensive than the next door dentist, right? Now, if you end up undercharging the patient, what happens is it will result in denials, but eventually that comes back as a denial. You again spend time on it to appeal the denials, and again the appeals gets rejected again. So, end of the day, you end up maybe 2 months down the line or a month down the line, you end up realizing that you have to charge extra to the patient. Now it's a painful process to actually go back to the patient and trying to collect it, right? And often it leads to revenue leakage, right? So denials and collection books are bad for books, right? So it ends up being revenue leakage. This is exactly what a highly effective eligibility verification system before the patient walks in solves, right? So if you have all the data, and when I say all the data, it's not just that the patient's insurance is eligible, or active or not, but going deep to understand what are the coverages, what are the percentages of coverages for each of the codes, what is the history of the patient, because there are frequency limited treatments that you might be doing to the patient. You want to understand how many times the patient has actually claimed that particular treatment in the year or in the last 2 years. So all this deep level information will enable you to collect exactly the amount that you should be from the patient on the day of the treatment, which eventually makes lesser number of denials, lesser number of hours for your team to actually work on those denials, and more money collected, right? So that's exactly what this does.
Amazing. So I guess when when you fix it upstream, the whole practice gets more predictable, and a predictable practice is one that can actually finally grow on its own terms. So
Absolutely.
this is exactly the point where I want to take a bit of a pause before we get to the next discussion, and want to give a shout out to our sponsors, who is basically sponsoring this episode. That is Echo Marketing. So when you basically have a predictable practice and a one you, that means basically it is a practice that can grow on its own terms, and also it's exactly the point where a right marketing strategy starts to make a real difference. So the team at Echo Marketing is offering a complimentary practice growth audit or a marketing strategy meeting. And what makes it different is that it's not just a generic consultation. They look specifically at what it would take for your practice to grow from less reliance on insurance based on where you are right now. So you can book a complimentary session at lessinsurancedependence.com/MSM. It's completely free and it's specific for your practice. And honestly, it's the kind of conversation every dentist building towards independence should be having for success. So now, Jofin, let's close with one thing every dentist can do this from this week. So for dentists still running this manually, what's the single workflow they should look at first to see where AI fits in?
Yeah, so I have my selfish motive to say that eligibility verification is definitely one, but I want to keep it like wider because AI is like coming and changing the landscape completely, right? So from clinical aspects of dentistry to, like you said, marketing. So there is a wide array of things which AI is making a huge lot of impact on. And the early adopters of AI is already seeing that value, right? And me coming from a completely technology background, building AI systems, I would encourage everyone to actually explore AI in the smallest ways possible, right? So that can be as simple as using ChatGPT in your regular day to day in different things, but it could go more complex and custom as well. But encourage them. So one resource I would suggest is we have an array of free resources on our website, needletailai.com, where we give out like starting from prompts that you can use for very specific use cases. And that when I say you, everyone in your office, right, from a front desk person, an office manager, a hygienist, a doctor, a billing person, everyone can use for making ChatGPT of your better friend in your day to day. To more complex tools to make your everyday or day to day jobs better. So we have a bunch of those free resources available. So that would be a great starting point. So if you download our 10 hacks, free 10 hacks, 10 AI hacks for practices, that would give you that would save you at least 30 minutes of your time combined in your office, right? So that can be a start point. And of course, workflows like RCM, where thinking differently and solving for those problems using AI would be the next step. But the only thing that I would say is embrace the technology, and that can do wonders for your office in whichever way is possible. In the most smallest way, it is fine, but get started, right? So
Exactly. Take that step. Take that one step front, and you'll take many steps forward if you take it today. So basically, Jofin, if there's any, I
absolutely.
mean, of course, listeners listening this episode will be very interested to know what Needletail is capable of, and of course, even get to have a conversation with you. What is the best way that they can reach out to you?
The website, as I mentioned, needletailai.com. So I hope you'll be linking it in the description as well. But not just for eligibility verification or RCM. It's fine if you don't if you're not looking at that right now. Even you can go into the website for a bunch of. There's a resources section, resources out there which you can use. needletailai.com. So you can directly reach out to me on on through the website, or Jofin, Jofin, at needletailai.com as an email ID. Always happy to help in whatever ways I can, even if it is not directly connected to our product. So I'm here.
Amazing. Thank you, Jofin. So we will also be, if we can, maybe we have the 10 resource free pack that you just mentioned earlier. We could have it in the show notes. So for anyone who wants to take use of it, can take it from the show notes. Cool.
Absolutely. Would love to. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Jofin, thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lester. So I really enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed the way in which you organized the whole thing. So you are doing something amazing. All the very best.
Thank you so much. So what you shared is a reminder that some of the biggest revenue wins in the dental practice aren't clinical, they're operational, and AI is making them more accessible than ever. So if you're ready to take action on what we covered today, you can schedule a complimentary marketing strategy meeting with Echo Marketing at lessinsurancedependence.com/MSM. And if you're looking for mentorship and you're looking for help with coaching for your practice, you can also book a complimentary coaching strategy meeting with Gary Takas at lessinsurancedependence.com/CSM. Now, the morning grind doesn't have to be the price of a running practice. The right systems change everything, and the time to build them is now. So keep going, and thank you for listening to Less Insurance Dependence Podcast. I'm Lester De Alwis, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.